What's up, everybody? Kyle Tim here once again, and this is the Anime Association. On today's episode, we will be talking about One Piece chapter 1145. But before that happens, I have a very special guest joining me today to talk about this chapter, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
What is up, guys? NYC Anime Nerd here. Glad to be here because everybody knows that I'm already Yonko status. Don't want to mess with me in the new world. Just here to talk One Piece and trying to keep it on task because everybody knows we can talk about One Piece for longer than it's been going on. So
Yeah,
we're, we're,
man.
we're gonna try and keep it to chapter 1145, which is
The Wildfire and Forest Sector 2, Branch Route 8. Wild title. I'll tell you
which
that right
is which
now.
is like one of the longest titles they've had in a while. They went from longest mural to longest title.
Yeah, and it's just directly it's an exact location right there. Now I
Yeah.
do know that this actually came after the first thing that we wanted the first part of the actual chapter, the color spread. But I have been kind of enjoying the cover story a little bit on and off. It's been kind of confusing in some parts about
Yeah.
exactly what's been going on. Mostly that first section where it was just like Yamato is walked down the street. Yamato made a left turn. Yamato did a jump. Like it was kind of like that, and now it's starting to pick back up. I really just wanted to know exactly what you're thinking of the cover story so far, and especially up to these last like 3 pages.
So I love it. I think Yamato's kind of giving the rest of the Todoroki like the option, like become my shoguns and keep Wano at peace, or we're locking you up, type of deal. And it's, to me, it's cool. Like it's cool in a lineage sense that they were under Kaido and now they're potentially under Yamato. And it's like the lineage, so they might feel, like they're honoring Kaido some way, but at the same time, totally different outlook, totally different reason, not ruling out of fear, ruling out of wanting to keep peace. And it's uh it's very interesting to me. Uh I love Yamato. I think she and Momo and Wano as a whole and the Todoroki are going to play a big part in you know the coming story.
Yeah, I agree. I really agree with everything you said. I do think, especially Yamato and the Toby Ropo, at least
Who's
uh,
who?
who's who. I'm kind of iffy on what role who's going to play because he just got beat down, but he could be like an Ashura type of character to Yamato, because
Yeah,
obviously what Yamato is doing now is like a mirror to Odin, right? Like that's kind of what's going
exactly.
on right now. This is like her region and stuff like that. Uh, the one thing I do agree with the most though is them following Yamato out of respect instead of fear, mostly because they're kind of like uh, step siblings to an extent. Like they were, because what their parent was Hanafuda, and we know Kaido. He was like a underling to Hanafuda, who was a warlord that Ace beat. Like we just learned
Yeah,
all of that for the most part. Not this SBS, but the last SBS, right?
yeah, exactly. And also, Ace is Yamato's, like, taught Yamato basically how to fight well. You know,
Yeah, yeah, and
there's
like
remember
everything
there's the
about the outside
flashback.
world.
Yeah, yeah, and she couldn't leave the island, and that's when you learn about how why she can't leave the island. Um, and yeah, so it's just kind of circle. I mean, I'm not the biggest Ace guy,
Yeah,
so
neither am I.
so it's whatever. But yeah, but yes, exactly. It's all kind of I'm glad some pieces are starting to fill out in the puzzle because it's a big puzzle.
Yeah, all of this stuff is definitely going to link up to the story and bring us into the final war. This is where all this stuff I think is going to make sense with Yamato and everything. The only I love the cover stories, even though they might be hit and miss at times to me. But my biggest complaint is that it's only one panel. It's only one panel. I wish it could be a whole longer thing, and I'm sure when you put them together
I
in like hindsight, it looks better. But it's
I was
just like,
just gonna
oh man,
I was just gonna say, could you imagine a photo of every single cover story just next to each other? Like
yeah,
that would be so cool.
that's a book in itself. I mean, I know
Yeah,
it's not one for every chapter, but I mean, you're talking about every major arc has at least what 20 plus panels for a cover story.
yeah, but it could be, like I wonder what that story says. And here we go, off topic already.
Well, it's on topic, but it's off topic. But you know what? Let's just flip the page back right quick
Yeah.
because we got this incredible cover spread before we
So
even got the introduction to it. So
yeah, which we're super lucky we don't get these too often. Although recently we have been like we got the Elbaf one, seeing them in like color in their clothes in what they're wearing in Elbaf,
oh yeah, yep.
which I thought was really strange because I know this is off topic, but it's super quick. Luffy's cape right now, does it remind you of anybody's?
Oh man, you're gonna make me have to go pull this up right quick.
You don't have to. I can just break it down for you.
I would have to take a look at it because a lot of times when I read the chapters, these like the cover stories and like the color spreads, I kind of just one and done them unless there's something really interesting on them. So
Well, I find this super interesting. It looks identical, and on the color spread, it's the same color as kids. Now, what if Rhodes went after Shanks, took them out, went to make sure that none of them were still alive, took Kid's cape, and it ended up on Luffy's back somehow? That's I know it's so far fetched, but
it's
that's
not
what I
really
think.
far fetched for real because we know how Road gets his stuff. His stuff is more so scavenging for items and stuff to
No,
build his Lego houses and stuff. So it's not that far fetched that one of his birds would have picked it up out of the ocean and brought it to him. You
no,
know, that's
exactly. But wouldn't that be crazy if, like, after this, go look at the color of it, and you'll be like, "Oh, that's Kid's cape for sure." You'll be like, "What?"
yeah. Nah, I mean that's a. I'll go take a look at it, and I'm gonna shoot you a message as soon as I see it. Like, yo, what the, because
Yeah,
that's pretty much how half of our conversations go half the time.
yeah,
Uh, but is there anything in the color spread itself that you? I mean, I know there's the 11:15, which is their new time block in Japan.
yeah.
Uh, it and of course they're like in Egghead watching the Luffy and Gear 5 fight. That's what it looks like to me. I mean Lucci, the Lucci versus Luffy fight. That's what it looks like. It's showing to me at least, or it
Is
could
it?
be the fights that happen later on in the arc.
Yeah. So I think what is funny to me, or what stands out to me, is everybody is watching except for Zoro, and which makes me think it's the Lucci fight because he was there. You know, he was there fighting,
Okay,
so like he doesn't need to watch it. He doesn't
because
need to like be there like rewatching. He's like, I've already seen this. I thought.
I didn't even think about that. I noticed he was the only person that wasn't facing a screen, but I wasn't
Yeah,
even thinking about like, oh, he why do the rewatch when he was already there? Of course, Luffy's gonna watch it because he's simple like that, so he's gonna rewatch himself all the time. But
Yeah. He,
nah,
he's
that
just
makes
like,
sense.
he's like, what? That's what I look like?
Yeah, because he hasn't even really seen himself
He's
as the warrior in white before, right?
exactly. He's not, there's never been, like, and as soon as he gets gassed, he's out. There's been,
Yeah,
there's never, to my knowledge, him like looking at himself or him being like, oh yeah, I can do this when I go into this new form.
yeah. Well, I mean, he knows he has a white hair form because they always bring it up to him, and he's like, "Oh, this is my freest form." But we know, I'm pretty sure he's never seen his actual self before, or he might just be like, he doesn't really know what he looks like, but they're saying like, but he knows what they're referring to. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes, yeah, but yeah, yes.
Because
I
isn't that
I
what
do.
Bonnie says to him? Is like, what's that white hair form?
Oh,
And he's
so yeah, yeah, yeah. Because then, yes, so he has seen it because Bonnie does go. You know,
yeah. So let's just
uh,
forget that whole part of the
yeah.
conversation
Well,
even happened.
yeah. We'll just not include that one. You want me to
Yeah.
bring up?
Where's Pudding at? Everybody, where's Pudding at? Let's just pull that from y'all memory banks right quick. Let's
Yeah,
just do
yeah.
that. And now one of the other interesting things that happened in this chapter is that we found out there was a shield on Elbaf that was made by Big Mom. At least that's how I took it. I know a lot of people are taking it like it was made by Mother Caramel, but when I
Nah,
read on the expedition, the Vanquish Big Mom, it seems like it took place at a later point in time from when Big Mom was banished from Elbaf.
I
Uh,
agree. I agree with you, and I think it goes even deeper than that because he is he's like, what is Zeus doing with you? Basically, he's like, you don't deserve, like, who's this navigator that has Zeus? Like, Zeus
mm-hmm.
is held in such high regard by him that it makes me think that Zeus was there during God Valley, and that's how we're going to start to get snippets of it. I think Zeus has been around that long and was a major player there. I think Zeus is going to bring it up at
You
some
know
point.
that it would make sense, especially with us knowing Big Big Mom saved Kaido at God Valley. I'm assuming with giving the devil fruit to him saved his life.
Eggs.
But we also seen Zeus save her from falling into the ocean. So I wonder if that's almost like a, I'm not going to say foreshadow, but like a mirror of what happened at some point in time in their past. Is Zeus saved her? Now, when we seen flashbacks, the few flashbacks that we've seen of God Valley, we've seen one of her main homies before, haven't we? Not Napoleon, but we saw this
Prometheus?
fire. Yeah,
Prometheus?
yeah. Didn't we see Prometheus during the God Valley flashback, or at least one of those times?
I think there was like a sketch of some. It could have looked like Prometheus, right?
Yeah, it's I might be putting two panels like side by side that don't belong side by side, but I feel like we've seen at least Prometheus with her at a in her hot mom days.
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, yes, I think you're correct. I think you're correct. Um, yeah, but yeah, I think yeah, and so I agree with you, the Kaido part of it, and I think, if Zeus was actually there, I don't know who else is like a better person to not tell us everything that happened, but maybe start to hint at it or hint at something. And it's also, what's so weird to me about the shield and about Zeus is how are these homies still alive if Big Mom is quote unquote dead, which I don't think she is.
I don't
Um,
either.
do
That's exactly what I was going to get at.
do homies have a lifespan? And if they do, like how what lifespan do you put on a cloud, you know?
Well, we know that now. You can take whatever Boa was saying to Blackbeard with a grain of salt of like just trying to like bluff him out or whatever.
Yeah.
With no, like once they turn the stone, a different person can't do it type of thing. Like only I can turn them back. If I die, nobody can turn them back. But that goes to show
I
that
don't think she's bluffing.
yeah. So if you don't think she's bluffing, then that goes to show that devil fruits do overlay depending on the power. But we also know that because well, we don't know for sure, but islands like Raijin Island, you can only assume that this island's whole ecosystem changed because of an awakened Goro Goro no Mi user, right? Uh so but in like saying but we've also seen it with Punk Hazard. You know, half of it
Yeah.
is permanently ice, half of it's permanently fire because of extreme conditions. So we know that just because even though those two are still alive, condition like a devil fruit doesn't necessarily lose what it affected, right? Is what I'm trying to get at. So there is a possibility that they can go along, but the way that the homies talk about Big Mom is like she's not dead.
And I hear what you're saying about the Boa thing, but um with it also could be, devil fruit, like dependent, like hers could just be like that, like hers could not transfer over. Well, Mother Caramel's, or Big Mom's, I should say, you know, uh, like they would die if she was dead, like it, things could have different, like if there's one thing we've learned about devil fruits, it's that like the only characteristic that we thought we knew is that you couldn't have more than one, and which now is also not true. Well, from early on is not true,
Yeah, that went straight out
So
the
it's
window halfway through the story.
yeah. So just because Boa's fruit, if she dies and someone else takes it, doesn't mean that they can, or it means that they'll still be stone. Doesn't mean that if Big Mom dies, there's stay alive. Like two things can be true for two different devil fruits, or
Yeah.
one can be true for one devil fruit and another for the other. So we don't really know that because we still, devil fruits are still a mystery. And a
Especially
mystery for the
Paramecia.
something I found super funny about this chapter though is, so when they're going after like the Grogosaurus to eat,
Uh
uh and the chef, like, he's like spitting everywhere over the food. I'm like, that's not food I want to eat, man. and then
huh.
and then like Luffy's trying to feed Loki, and he like burns him. He does all this stuff, and he's like, why is he getting mad? And it just makes me think back to like how like Luffy doesn't think, like there's never been a thought bubble for him in One Piece.
Never.
Like it's like there's certain things Luffy knows how to do, and he does them better than anyone. Like be free, you
Matter
know?
of fact, we've seen the formation of thought bubbles, but we've never seen an actual completed bubble. Or if we did, it's always just been dot dot dot.
Exactly. And it's like in Wano when he took the sword, he didn't even know how to fight with a sword. He was still punching. He was just holding the sword. You know? It's like
Yeah,
it's like he's he he's so interesting as a character. On At face value, he's the easiest, most, you know, thing character probably ever, but it's so deep. it's so deep that
He
it's
represents his character represents exactly what he's trying to represent.
exactly.
It's to a complete T where he's looking for absolute freedom, and that's exactly how he lives. He's not he's not under the shackles of thought or overthinking or anxiety or anything like that.
Exactly.
Because the only time we've seen anything like that hold him down was when Ace died. That was the only time, and it was right there in Marineford, and then on Amazon Lily as well. But that's the only time we've seen him. But I thought him doing that to Loki was funny. I can't remember what other character he did that to, but it was funny where like Loki's this big baddie, or at least like the big bad tough guy, and like he's like, "Yo, keep this guy away from me. Do
Yeah.
not bring him near me. He's going to kill me."
And Luffy like does not understand, and like homie's just like bleeding out still with
Yeah,
like some shackles on, like
went to go give him some hot ass soup and shit, and he's like,
yeah,
"Yo,
and just like
stop."
burn the shit out of him. Or
Yeah,
excuse
but talking about Loki,
yeah,
Kaido, and Big Mom, we actually
this was
see that.
huge.
Yeah, this was the biggest part of the chapter to me, at least, and I think everybody else would agree that his Shanks, his Roger, is Zebek. And now for some, you don't see the whole thing, but he just got done fighting Zebek to get onto the crew. But obviously he wasn't going to let that happen. And I missed on the first go around that he's with Whitebeard, which is weird that I would miss it because he says shut up Newgate, but he's with Whitebeard.
Uh-huh.
And
And
I
you wanna know what's weird that I sorry, side note, did you know that New and he's one of the few people that call him Newgate.
who's the other person?
Uh um Shanks.
Shanks calls him Newgate?
Shanks called him Old Man Newgate.
Interesting.
I'm almost positive it's Shanks. It's
To his face?
yeah, to his face. And cuz you got to realize Newgate is actually his first name. Edward's his last name.
Yeah,
What
Edward Newgate.
you, you know, like in Japanese culture, Edward Newgate, last name first name last. So
Yeah.
it's so his name's Newgate. So the fact that Loki is calling him, excuse me, the fact that Rox is calling him Newgate,
Uh-huh.
that they're on a first name basis, which we may have never seen. I may have been mistaken, but it may be the first time we see someone calling him by his first name. You don't call anybody by their government unless you're
Yeah.
that close with them, you
Or you're
know?
just him.
Exactly.
That's all that is.
Exactly.
Cause who I
Exactly. If
mean,
you're Himothy, then
yeah.
you do it. But also though, yeah, this panel is it's really really cool because it shows, you know, Loki being telling Rox, I want to join your crew, and him being like, you're too young. And that was Luffy, you know, also, you know,
What,
he
15 years
literally says
ago?
he literally says something like, I know what it's like to look up to the, you know, the strongest pirate of your generation or whatever. You know, it's something along those lines.
Yeah. Then that's and I really hope we get back to it next chapter, which what drops next week, I think. Right? Or
Is
is
there
that 2 week break?
is I think there might not no, I think there's a break after 11:45. Wait, is
This is 45.
this is 45. Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a break week. I'm not sure, but
All
yeah,
I
it's
know is I really hope we get back to this. Don't get me wrong. Everything that's going on the other side of the panel with the nightmares and Killingham and all
and
that stuff is
Gunko.
interesting. Yeah, the
The Gun-
Gunko
can we
pulling
touch
up
on the
on Brook
Gunko
and them.
part real quickly?
Yeah, what's up?
So, so she, you know, when people are reading it, I don't know if they took it this way, but I took it as she was worried about those kids about to burn,
Yeah.
And so something I've realized, so I personally think Gunko is Kuma's late wife Ginny's daughter or a
Uh-huh.
clone of Ginny, but she wears
You have
a
to
hat.
pick one. Which one?
Daughter, daughter,
Daughter. Okay. Okay.
daughter. I don't want them to get too much into the clone thing. And it makes sense because that's why she's wrapped up, because the diseases, she could pass it on. That's why she has the bandages. But the point that I was getting to is she wears a hat with goggles over it, and that is very reminiscent to the Revolutionary Army. Um,
Okay.
and so, like, think of Sabo. Think of the other captain. I always forget his name. He's
Karu.
the bird one.
Yeah, I think his name's Karu or
Is
something
it
like that.
Karu?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got so many people have goggles with like a hat.
Morley.
Yeah, exactly. And so I wonder if she's an agent or like a double agent, or was in the Revolutionary Army. And because to
That
me it seemed like she cared, like she didn't want those kids to get hurt. She was like, they're gonna wake up from their dreams burning to ash.
yeah.
And to me, that sounded like someone who's scared for kids.
I I do think that there was her reaction. I think I think Saint Summers' reaction is supposed to show that there's some type of juxtaposition going on between the two, because she says that and then Summers says, "Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it?" or something psychotic like that, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's supposed to be Oda telling us, like, no, what she is feeling is not the same thing as what Summers is feeling. Because if they're feeling the same way, why would we have to be told that this is how Summers feels if we already know that they're both sadistic, right? But so obviously Gunko has something different. I
Yeah.
I kind
Which
of feel like she's a clone,
I was
and
just about to say, if it makes sense. Sorry to cut you off, but it makes sense if she's a clone of a mom, because she wouldn't want to see, especially if her kid
yeah.
went through what she went through. She wouldn't want to see kids getting hurt. So
So okay. So I was originally going to say she's a clone, and they gave her the goggles as some sick government type shit that they would do. Like,
that they do.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, we're going to give you this revolutionary thing. So when they see you, they know who you are, but you don't know nothing type of ordeal. But now I'm kind of wondering, what if it is Jenny, right? What if it is Jenny and they like did some type of like modification to her type of ordeal, right?
Like Seraphim type deal.
Yeah, something like that. I was going to say like a zombie type of thing, but that would have to utilize
But guys, Tim's coming on my show, One Piece Theory Thursdays, where we're gonna really talk about this, because I figured out what Emu's devil fruit is, and one of the powers actually is a necromancy thing, and so it would make sense, because we're
okay,
getting very far off this
off the
chapter,
topic.
but I
Yeah.
love it.
I mean, we are, but we aren't. We're just talking more about the character. But I think that's a good place to end it right now. Do you have any closing words on the chapter or what you got going on and where they can find you?
Yeah, all socials at NYC Anime Nerd. Come say what's up. I think that I will be doing these with you weekly, or for every chapter at least.
Yeah. As far as I know, that's the plan, and then an anime react discussion and review with Anime Addict 1999.
Yeah. So we'll definitely talk more about it. And guys, follow Kaio Tim, follow me, because it'd be really cool, I think, if we could do this live, and kind of hear other people's perspectives. So if we, if you guys really enjoy this, leave a like. It helps us out with the algorithm. The Anime Association does a lot more than just One Piece. They're doing a bunch of different things on different days. This is just one of them. So go like them. It'll help out their algorithm. And if you guys like it, we'll do it live, because then you guys can chip in and tell us how you feel about these things. I think that's the point of the community, right?
Yes,
Everybody
sir.
kind of getting in together. And so like the video, like Anime Association, and double like NYC Anime Nerd on everything.
Well, you heard it here first, y'all. Triple like Kaio Tim in the Anime Association, and triple like NYC Anime Nerd on all platforms, on all
Don't
social
forget,
medias. This is
don't
what we
forget,
do.
I'm Yonko Status, and Kaio's my vice captain.
I'm Gorosei. Hate me now. Hate me
Uh,
now. I'm a Gorosei. But until next time, y'all. Peace.
Peace.